Okay, so there's going to have to be a part 1 and a part 2 of this video because I was interrupted by a phone call that was unfortunately a scammy type phone call. Hate that. Anyway, where am I? So if you didn't watch the last video, ultra quick recap of that. You can go back and watch that other one if you want, but I've stopped going to chiropractic, had some blood work done at my GP, and then moved on to a naturopath who did some vega testing, urinalysis, and a small blood test as well. So fast forward after that data collection appointment, which was my first appointment with, at the naturopathic clinic. The second appointment was actually with the, naturopath proper, and that was the following day. So what came out of that appointment, the data collection appointment, was that, like I said, most of my proteins were good, my blood levels were good, or like my iron levels were good, blood sugar was good, all of that. And out of my urinalysis, she did detect that my white blood cell count was slightly elevated, which I did talk to the naturopath about, and it can basically be like a small stomach or urinary infection. I'm not feeling any symptoms of it, so she just kind of said drink a bunch of water, not worth antibiotics for, so cool. But really out of the naturopathic appointment came some really cool stuff. So she did some more vega testing, and like I said in the previous video, if you don't know what vega testing is, I highly encourage you to do some research on it. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly, as there is with anything, but it's very non-invasive. So if you're interested in some non-invasive style testing of your internal organs and systems and all that good stuff, might be a good place to start. So basically out of that vega testing, the first day, as I said, all of my levels were good. The naturopath that I actually saw directly the second day did do some more vega testing. Her vega testing that she did, the actual naturopath, was not to do with my like vitamins and proteins and things like that, but was with actual organ function. So out of that testing, she identified that there was a bit of an issue with my hormone levels. Go figure. And also that I was showing some signs of overall body inflammation inside my body. So I'm pretty proud of myself that through sort of listening to my own body, that I sort of came to that conclusion myself. Not necessarily the inflammation thing, but definitely hormones was something that I wanted to investigate further and see if that could potentially be my cause. So one thing that I did learn from the naturopath, which I don't know enough about sort of women's health, and I probably should. So I'm in the process of learning more right now, and any ladies out there that are listening, I highly encourage you to learn more about specific women's health. So when it comes to hormones and hormone cycles, like I'm the gal who doesn't really even know how long her cycles are and all that kind of stuff. So I'm learning now, which is good. It's never too late. It's better late than never, I guess. And yeah, but one thing she did mention to me is that women go through sort of cyclical hormonal changes. They happen kind of boom, 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 one after the other, but they're typically about 6 or 7 years apart. So from the time you kind of go through puberty and you start like your first menstrual cycle, every sort of 6 or 7 years after that, you do experience a bit of a hormonal shift. They're normal. This is not something wacky, but during those sort of hormonal shift times is when women are more susceptible to all kinds of things. Migraines definitely being one of them. So when I start looking back on sort of my own pasts of migraines, it really makes sense. So I started my period when I was 13. I'm 33 now. So if you kind of do the math, 13 plus say 6 is 19. So from basically like 19 to sort of my mid 20s, I definitely suffered with really awful migraines. That was one of those sort of bad patches that I went through. And then fast forward again, another sort of 6 years. I'm now at like 26. Again, suffered pretty heavily then. That was not a good period in my life in terms of migraines. And then fast forward again to voila, here I am in another sort of hormonal shift. So it sounds super scary, and even talking to my husband about it, there was some jokes about like, your hormones are raging. So I do feel a little bit like I'm going through like some sort of weird, I don't know, second or third puberty, but it's normal, and this happens to all women. So the naturopath did talk to me about my hormone levels, and that there was something that was a little bit off. So she, for that, prescribed me a PM amino acid, which is supposed to help my body sort of regulate my hormones so that through sort of regular times of the month, I shouldn't suffer so much with migraines. So moving on to the inflammation thing, she did say, like I said, that there was some inflammation going on. Typically, inflammation is the cause of a lot of really sort of scary diseases like heart disease and cancer and all kinds of awful stuff, but it's also been heavily linked to migraines. So where was I going with that? Diet. Yes, that's right. So I talked to her about the changes that I had made in my diet already, talking about like, whole foods and not eating processed foods and things like that. And she did have a look at my food diary, made a comment that I was all over the place, which is true. Over the past few weeks, I have definitely been all over the place. So excuse me. So she suggested that I go on an anti-inflammatory diet. And inflammation is basically the body's way of dealing with infection or an illness or something like that. So in other words, when you stub your toe or you make a cut or whatever, that's what accounts for the heat, is actually your body causing increased blood flow to that area to kind of aid in the healing process. But too much inflammation is bad. And for me, my diet was definitely full of super inflammatory foods. So she prescribed me a few other sort of supplements and then put me on an anti-inflammatory diet. So the supplements that she prescribed me with are theracurmin, and vitamin B6, which I was slightly deficient in, definitely prescribed pretty heavily for migraine sufferers. And I'm going to continue taking my vitamin B complex that I was already taking. I just need a specific B6 to kind of get that specific vitamin that I'm a little bit deficient in. I already mentioned the PM amino acid, and then she did also prescribe me a different sort of migraine herbal supplement from the one I was already taking. So the one I was taking previous to this, which I just started a couple weeks ago, is called Migraine, and it's made by a company called Bell. And so I took the bottle in and kind of showed her all of that. And she said there's nothing wrong with that as a supplement for migraine sufferers, but that the quantities of like the dosages of the stuff that's in there was not high enough for what I needed. So she has prescribed me with this Migramax one that unfortunately I'm waiting because it's on order from the local company that sells it here. So moving on to the diet. So like I said, inflammation is definitely a major leading cause of all kinds of really nasty stuff. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a naturopath, I'm not a dietitian. So if you're curious about what inflammation can do in the body, its negative impacts, by all means, go online and again, do your research. I feel like a broken record doing that, saying that to you guys, but that's what I've been doing a lot of, is just researching and not reading just the first like 2 or 3 articles that I find, but reading them all. It gets a bit tiresome because you'll notice that a lot of the web pages, they appear different, but the content is exactly the same. So that's frustrating. You really have to kind of dig deep to find different stuff. So the anti-inflammation diet is basically limiting foods in your diet that exacerbate inflammation in your body. So things like basically everything. I'm just joking, but it feels like a huge list. So for now, I'm going to be eliminating the following foods from my diet. The plan is to eliminate these foods and then go in and actually have a food sensitivity test done so I can potentially see what is causing the most inflammation out of these sort of trigger foods. And then if I don't have issues with certain foods, I can potentially add them back in, because this list is pretty exhaustive. So it includes things like no dairy, no nightshade family vegetables. So the nightshade is pretty much like the potato family. Those are out. Red bell peppers, those are out. Gluten is out, so I'm not celiac. I'm not even really gluten intolerant, but it's not good for my body right now. In addition to that, I have to be careful with peanuts, and animal meat can't be grain fed, or sorry, wheat fed, grass fed. No, I have to only eat grass fed meat if I want to eat meat. But I'd already kind of cut out a lot of meat anyway, just because there's a lot of gross stuff in it and preservatives and whatnot. Processed foods are obviously awful too, no matter who you are, what diet you're on. Processed foods are gross. So I've removed pretty much most processed stuff from my diet. Some of it obviously is unavoidable. I shouldn't say that, it probably is avoidable, but I've eliminated most of it. And sugar is a real big one too. And I think that's most of the big stuff. Like I said, it was a pretty exhaustive list. So in addition to the diet changes that I had already made, I'm adding on obviously this other stuff. So made a really fun trip to the health food store today to kind of look around and see what I could find. Found some really helpful ladies in there that helped me kind of pick out some stuff that they had tried that was tasty. They knew right away about the diet that I was on, so it's obviously a common thing that people come in there looking for stuff. I can have rice, so I can have rice flour. Pretty much it's like eating whole, so whole wheat, whole grains, things like that. If I am eating any wheat products, it has to be whole wheat. I can't have corn, no corn products. So there goes my corn tortillas and salsa. Oh, because that was another one, was tomatoes. Tomatoes are real bad. And citrus fruit too. So it's a lot of stuff that I like, unfortunately, but I'm getting used to it. Already, even though it's only been a day, it's all in your head. You tell yourself that you can't do this. You fill yourself with all types of negative talk. So I'm trying to be really sort of aware of that negative talk and telling myself and replacing it with positive talk and telling myself, you know, I can do this. And not only can I do this, I need to do this. Because despite the fact that I'm not a daily migraine sufferer, the days that I do get migraines are so debilitating and so crippling, and they go on for days, and then I feel weird for days after them. I ain't having none of that in my life. So that's basically where we're at right now. Like I said, I've started this diet. I've started these supplements. I'm feeling really good. I haven't had a migraine in a little over 2 weeks, which is awesome. The naturopath did say that the supplements and like basically dietary changes that I've adopted currently probably won't have too much of an effect on my upcoming cycle, which is probably when I'll be in the most sort of danger zone for more migraines. So I have a follow-up appointment with her in 3 weeks to kind of just discuss where I'm at that point in time. And then if any sort of major changes are going to be seen, it'll be the following month, which I am so looking forward to. So that's basically where we're at right now. I encourage you guys to reach out if you want, subscribe to my channel, leave comments below, find me on Facebook, whatever you want to do. Reach out to me if you're interested in hearing more about my journey, if you feel like it might be similar to your journey that you need to go on. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I'm gonna go outside because it's a nice sunny day out there. And yeah, best of luck to all of you on whatever journey you're on right now, whether it's just health or if it's migraines. I feel for you, and we're in it together.